Hello, guys. Welcome to the show. Well, listen, I got news coming in from all over how they are actually planning on trying to keep this system going and alive. You know, the powers that be are fighting, trying to fight off this crisis that's coming with a worldwide economic slowdown and a recession that's coming right now. I got a lot of ground to cover on this particular episode, so I'm going to move fairly quickly, and we're going to start the charts right here, and we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about the trade war. First off, one of the methods that they're trying to use to delay or slow down this economic crisis and this slowdown is this trade war ending. And this is why they went in and made a truce. And now, what do we see here in the news? A truce won't solve the trade war, but here's what might. Okay? In other words, they're talking. It says that Chinese Xi Jinping calls on Donald Trump for trade compromise. Big progress made in China trade war talks. Okay? I'll tell you what. They're making this huge amount of progress right now because the stock market's starting to roll over. They're working together. And also, the Chinese economy is starting to roll over. The pressure's coming on them. They got to solve this trade war. Donald Trump also, he has a limited amount of time he's got to solve this government shutdown. Because food stamps are going to be affected pretty soon. That's coming around. So look for these problems, the trade war problem, to get solved very soon. The pressure's on to it now. Look for a deal. Look for it coming. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about, and this is really big. This is a story that nobody else is much talking about. The Japanese banks are making their new cryptocurrency called J-Coin. Big Japanese banks, not little Japanese banks, big ones. Mizuho Financial Group, huge Japanese bank, going to create this new cryptocurrency. Now you say, well, why is this story important? I'll tell you why. This is a watershed story. This is a story that's going to explode, could explode. And the reason why is because when these banks make their own cryptocurrency and put it out there, they can use the same software that was used, it's open source software that was used to create Bitcoin. They can make a coin similar, right? And when they make that coin, it costs them nothing. It costs them nothing. Now, you know, all these people out here are tired of borrowing money. They've borrowed the limit that they're going to borrow. And that's how banks make their money, is by lending out money. People are not borrowing money anymore because people are flat. They've borrowed and borrowed for years and years, and now it needs to be paid back. The debt is saturated, the system. But now think about this for a minute. If these banks can create their own coin and it costs them nothing, so say a bank creates 200 million of these new coins, costs them nothing, then they sell you those coins pegged to the currency of the country that they make them in. Okay? So you buy those coins that cost them nothing with your actual hard currency. In this case will be the yen. So the people in Japan will buy this cryptocurrency that's pegged to the yen, equal part, like they buy a unit of cryptocurrency off the bank that the bank just made for nothing. They buy it. Now the bank sells it to them. Now the bank's got their yen. Okay? They got the cryptocurrency. They go out and spend the cryptocurrency chasing real goods and services, just like they would spend the yen. They love it. It's on their phone. It makes it easy for them to spend, and the bank tells them, okay, it's safe, it's secured by our bank. So they're not scared of it. They're not scared of the value of it going down because it's pegged to the yen. And the bank benefits hugely because the bank can lend these cryptocurrencies out with a fractional reserve. In other words, the bank only has to have 1/10 of reserve on account of yen. They can lend out 10 times as much of these new cryptocurrencies to the people that is pegged to the yen. It gives the bank the power of money creation, just like the Fed. Okay? And so it'll enrich the bank wonderfully. Look for this to spread. Look for this is the first. Banks. They're trying it out. You can be aware that all the other banks are watching how this flies. And guess what? This is going to fly. Let's read a little bit of it. It says Japanese banks are thinking of making their own cryptocurrency called a J-coin. Japanese banks are looking into their own digital currency called the J-coin. Mizu Financial Group is one bank spearheading the efforts. These efforts are in the early stages. J-coin will be pegged to the yen, and users will be able to spend it through a mobile app. Japanese banks are looking to launch their own digital currency called the J-coin and to wean consumers off of cash. Okay? The project is in the early stages, but you can bet they're going to move forward fast. All the other banks are watching. Watch other banks, once this is successful, maybe a 6-month trial, 3-month trial. We don't know how long the trial will be. I imagine it's not going to be a long trial where the other banks can see it's starting to be a success. Watch other banks worldwide start to hop on the bandwagon on this. And this is a money multiplier. That's what it is. It's a money multiplier. It's going to create 10 times the amount of fiat currency in the system than there is now. Because this is a new way for the banks to lend out money to the people. It's perfect for the banks. They'll make tremendous profits all over again. Okay? But can we say hyperinflation? Okay, so we got that going on. Now let's move on to a different story here. Let's see what's going on here with the Brexit. Okay? We can see that there's a delay here. What they're planning. Look what they're planning. MPs, members of Parliament, plan to delay Brexit if May's deal fails, says a report. Lawmakers discuss putting back the date of Britain's departure from the EU by several months. So what they're going to do is they're going to back burner this for a little while. They're going to buy time. So March 29th may not necessarily be the date that the Brexit actually occurs. Members of Parliament, unless the people are actually able to come up and say, hey, hell no, you're not delaying this. This was what we wanted, and you guys are just stalling for time to try to placate the boys in Brussels, or something like that. Cross-party talks are underway in the United Kingdom to delay Brexit if the government fails to get its deal through Parliament next month, the Observer reported Sunday. Preparations for a no-deal Brexit have intensified in Britain, with civil servants and government officials working through Christmas holidays to prepare contingency plans. Thousands of military personnel are on standby, aiming to avoid such scenarios. MPs from both the ruling Conservatives and the opposition Labour Party are talking about putting back the March 29th Brexit date by several months if Prime Minister Theresa May's deal is defeated in the House of Commons, the Observer said. I have had these discussions with ministers. They do not say so in public, but of course the opinion of a delay has to be looked at in detail now, said one unnamed senior Tory MP, quoted by the Observer. If we are determined to avoid a no deal and the Prime Minister's deal fails, we will have to ask to stop the clock. Okay? So they're talking about this. This is in the works. This is the first news I've heard about this, a delay, but that's what it looks like it's heading toward. Okay? This seems to me, this is what they always do. The politicians always kick the can down the road. There's going to be a spot where they can't kick the can down the road anymore. The can's going to go over a cliff. Because everything, they've been kicking the can down the road. Not dealing with any of the problems, just pushing them off to the future to deal with. Okay, the yellow vest movement. It says turnout falters, but France's yellow vest protests rumble on. So, this hasn't went away. This is still there. It's just that Christmas time and New Year's have occurred right now. It's cold out this time of year. People like to sit in by the fire. They like to sit next to their Christmas tree, and they like to enjoy a hot cup of coffee or whatever. They're not out on the streets right now. And it's because of Christmas and New Year's. But this isn't went away. It says yellow vest protesters lose strength, according to them. Yeah, the mainstream media wants to make it seem like it's disappearing. It says on this article right here, it says, the Eiffel Tower is shrouded by smoke as Paris burns into the night. And this was a story from 18 hours ago. Okay? So if you can imagine in your mind the Eiffel Tower shrouded in smoke right now and Paris burning. Okay? They're trying to ignore it. They're trying to make it seem like it's going away. It's not going away. Okay? It's still there. I imagine it's going to erupt sometime into the new year, this situation. This situation has, see, look right here. It says Dutch yellow vest protests broken up by mounted police. Okay, so the Dutch are protesting too, not just in France. It's in other countries too, and it can actually spread. This can spread very quickly into the new year. Now, what about Deutsche Bank? Okay, Deutsche Bank's down to 6.97 euros. I said if Deutsche Bank drops below 6, that's going to be free fall time. Who's going to rescue Deutsche Bank? Quite seriously, who's going to rescue them? But they're too big to fail. Let's get this very clear. They're too big to fail. What that basically means is their derivatives book is so big that if they go under, to settle that derivatives book, it's going to have repercussions through the entire financial system. It could spiral the financial system out of control. But on the other hand, who's going to step into the breach to save them? I don't see any hands coming up right now. I don't see anybody saying, hey, we'll save them, we'll save them. I don't see that. You know? So there's that going on. Now, what about China? China is planning on keeping their economy going come hell or high water, and they're just going to keep borrowing more and more money. In other words, the Chinese are continuing to kick the can down the road. The Chinese are going to reach a point in the end where they cannot service their debt. I mean, they are growing an enormous debt. They're growing a debt that's going to be bigger than the United States' debt. You know? It says Chinese top policymakers confirm that more monetary and physical support will be rolled out in 2019. Honest to God. It says the statement signals that China is ratcheting up the limited target stimulus approach used in 2018, though still stopping short of the all-out support that would pressure the currency and hobble efforts to contain debt. Facing the most difficult economic environment in years amid a trade standoff with the United States, the conference outcome suggests Beijing sees increasing urgency in tackling stalling growth. You know what? They got it all wrong. It's not stalling growth. They're saying that they have over 6% GDP. The United States is saying it has 3% GDP. I'm going to tell you what. They can fix the GDP numbers very easily. Those numbers are fixed. The real numbers in the United States is probably a big fat 0. And China's probably really more like about 1 or 2% at the most. But that 1 or 2% that China has right now is going to dry up like hot spit on a hot wood stove. You know, and I mean, this is what's going on here. And so we got an awful lot of problems in the world. I'm following these problems very carefully. But one of the biggest things I've seen on here that I mentioned this morning in this report is, or this afternoon in this report, is the fact that the banks now have a new money-making tool. That's brand new. Only one big bank's adopting it in Japan so far. But this is a new trend. And this is a money multiplier. This could effectively make 10 times as much money in the system. And we're not talking about physical money, money you can hold in your hand like cash. This is going to destroy cash, but it's also going to multiply the amount of currency that's in the system, because now we have the little banks have turned into central banks with this. Every little bank on earth now can have their own coin, and they can do a money multiplier without using the public, without using borrowers anymore through the fractional reserve system. They don't need borrowers anymore. They need exchangers, people that will exchange their actual country currency, like the dollar. So picture if J.P. Morgan did this, for instance. Say they made 1 billion new J.P. Morgan coins, J.P. Morgan Bank coins. And they made an app on the phone and everything, right? And you could go around and spend these coins anywhere you wanted to spend them in America off of your mobile app. But you got to get those coins. You got to give J.P. Morgan your real U.S. dollars. He gives you these fake dollars that they created from nothing. It's going to multiply the money supply tremendously, because every bank will hop on board. I mean, this is a boon to the banking system, because they can effectively make 10 times as much currency that they have on hand. They can lend it all out in the form of these coins. Watch this spread. This is a new trend. Listen, thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye, guys.